You're absolutely right about the intentions of Governor Abbott. He is attacking democratically ran cities, and particularly cities that are being led by black leaders or leaders of color. This is unconscionable. And it's a very raggedy approach. And quite frankly, not only is it reckless and raggedy, but it is evil-spirited. Also not lost on me, I think there were 38,000 Republicans that showed up and voted for Donald Trump or something like that in Chicago. So, you know, since if we're trying to draw some conclusions and you all want some other, you know, analytics you might want to discover, that might be something to look into, because I'll just say it, there's a good chance that played a part in this referendum. So the same people who want to see Donald Trump to become president, you know, sometimes I do feel like he wants my job, but who wants to be president again, those are the same voters who voted for him, and the same voters where you look at where there were more no's, they were concentrated there.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. When woke Mayor Brandon Johnson was elected mayor of Chicago, I knew it would be a disaster. However, I didn't know it would get this bad this quickly. I mean, the same thing with Joe Biden, right? I knew that Joe Biden becoming president would be a disaster for America, but I didn't know it would be this bad, okay? I mean, I hope that people are saying, I really do, I hope people are saying the consequences of voting for progressive Democrats, okay? Because that is where the Democrat Party is at. They're all progressive for the most part. And what you're getting is chaos and destruction as a result of it, okay? And again, we got to talk about Chicago, because Chicago, the residents, have had enough of Brandon Johnson. We all know what the issues are with Chicago. Crime, this guy is trying to increase taxes, illegal immigration, sanctuary city, something that Brandon Johnson campaigned on. He said, yeah, I love illegal immigrants. We want them in Chicago, okay? We have to feed, we have to house them. There are more than enough resources to go around. Now, all of a sudden, he's boohoo, whining, crying racism, saying, well, it's racist to send me what I asked for. Because it turns out that none of the things that progressives told us about illegal immigration are true. Like, for example, that it is a net positive, right? It's a net positive for our society to have illegals come into this country unchecked and just allow them to stay here. No, it's not a net positive. It is a net negative. And the citizens of Chicago have realized that, hey, we've been hoodwinked, led astray, run amok. I mean, not really tricked. I mean, just more so, again, I'm not sure exactly in what world did they think it would be a good idea to allow an open border, but I guess they thought they wouldn't have to experience the negative consequences of it. But since they are experiencing the negative consequences of it, again, they're fed up, okay? And they're blaming Brandon Johnson. It's at the point now where they have now begun a recall effort against Brandon Johnson. And I want to talk about it because, of course, he's boohoo, whining, crying racism over the recall effort against him, even though it seems like a lot of people that have issues with Brandon Johnson are black, okay? And I also want to talk about how this recall effort works, because it's not so simple as right now it's not possible, but they're trying to make it possible. And as early as March 2026, we could see Brandon Johnson on up out of there, right? If the citizens, the residents of Chicago do what they should do, which is to get Brandon Johnson up out of there and to vote for somebody that is not a progressive, right? That is not a left-wing lunatic. So without further ado, let's check in on Chicago.
Now, to align yourself with somebody who's obviously a one-term mayor, if he even makes it that far, you better be worrying about your job. You better be worrying about your longevity, because we're going to vote and we're going to get you out because you ain't doing right by us. That's what time it is.
Chicagoans furious and sounding off on Mayor Johnson's plan to tack on another $70 million to migrant funding. Frustration building to the point that some voters are now working to get him out of office, as you heard that constituent there saying. Garrett Tenney live in Chicago with the story. Hi, Garrett.
Yeah, Dana, good morning to you. This migrant issue has become an Achilles heel for Mayor Brandon Johnson, so much so that there are now multiple efforts underway to vote out Democrats and the mayor. We saw that yesterday at the city council meeting, where several groups of black voters showed up wearing red shirts with the words "No More Blue, Go Red," and "Turn Chicago Red." Many of these folks are lifelong Democrats who are now actively working to shake up deep blue Chicago, specifically because of how the mayor and the governor have handled the migrant crisis, doling out more than $1 billion so far for that. And here they are warning the mayor and city council about transferring offering another $70 million from the city's rainy day fund to take care of the migrants.
We need that money in my neighborhood. We need that on my block. So I'm asking y'all to use our tax money for our people. We need it.
You vote for the money for these immigrants today, and we coming for them seats. You can believe that.
The police are fighting with them in the shelters that you guys are funding. You guys think it's a great idea, but yet your police officers are getting attacked. Your public's getting attacked.
Yeah, so you see, now you heard that. That's pretty crazy, right? These are not MAGA hat wearing white supremacists. They might be MAGA hat wearing black supremacists, but the fact that we have black people wearing MAGA hats in Chicago, again, which is unheard of unless you believe Juicy Smollett and his story. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, hard to find a MAGA hat in Chicago up until 2024. Like, who would have thought that Democrats would be so bad that they would get black people in Chicago to wear MAGA hats to city council meetings to talk about how to overthrow the Democrats in their government, right? Absolutely crazy. Again, the best way to red pill a liberal, a Democrat, a progressive is just to give them what they want. Give them what they want. They had a chance to vote in Paul Vallis, who was supposed to be a more moderate Democrat, but they decided, no, we actually want to vote in a progressive. We're going to vote in Brandon Johnson after getting rid of Lori Lightfoot for being too liberal. So what do? They vote in a progressive, somebody that's even more to the left than Lori Lightfoot. It made absolutely no sense. So hopefully this time around, they actually, I don't know, vote to the right, okay? I'm not saying they'll necessarily vote for Republican. I don't know, because I don't think that the Republicans have a strong operation in Chicago, right? I think the party is basically non-existent there for obvious reasons. So it's going to be hard in such a short amount of time to get a political operation up and going in Chicago. But what should happen is that you should see them vote for more moderate Democrats, right? And if they start to vote for more moderate Democrats that are more towards the middle, then that opens up the opportunity to establish some type of Republican operations in Chicago that can actually make a run at some of these races. But I mean, Chicago for the most part is a Democrat stronghold, so it's really hard to make headway in a city like that, such a deep blue city, without a strong political operation. And again, I would say normally it's not worth doing, unless the voters show that, hey, we're willing to vote in the right direction. Again, they vote for a moderate Democrat, then yes, I think that the Republican Party would be smart to try to stage some type of serious operation in Chicago to flip Chicago red, because what we're seeing right now, guys, and I've told you this before, I'll tell you again, it is a political realignment, okay? You're seeing things change when it comes to how the parties are aligned, and you're also seeing the demographics of the parties change as well, too. You're seeing Republicans take on more so-called people of color, right, so to speak. Now, again, of course, the Democrats have a majority when it comes to those people, but again, the Republican Party isn't just all whites anymore, right? That's just not what it is, okay? It's becoming more, quote-unquote, diverse, but hopefully in a good way, in the sense that these people don't vote based off of race, but they vote based off policy, okay? And they realize that, hey, just because Brandon Johnson says he's your brother and he's black, that don't mean that he's looking out for you. That doesn't mean that his policies are going to be good for you. Again, it sucks that people have to learn this the hard way, that just because somebody looks like you doesn't mean that they should be in a position of leadership or that they're going to do good things by you. No, that's not what it means. Brandon Johnson is a puppet of the Democrat Party. Okay, he does what the white liberal tells him to do, right? That's his policy agenda. It has nothing to do with what black people want or what's best for black people or really what's best for Chicago. It's about what's best for the Democrats and their agenda. That's essentially what Brandon Johnson is all about. And again, people are learning this the hard way.
Currently, state law does not allow voters to recall Chicago's mayor, but after seeing how Mayor Johnson's first year has gone with the migrants and crime, a new group wants to change that by getting a referendum on the ballot this November that would pave the way to voting Johnson out.
We're not taking care of Chicago citizens first, and that's what it's all about. The fact of the matter is that we've never had this opportunity to recall before, and it's very apparent based on the mayor's abilities right now, or lack of accountability, that this needs to be addressed.
Yeah, Mayor Johnson is dismissing this recall effort as a right-wing effort from folks living out in the suburbs. But Dan laughed at that, saying he's lived in Chicago for 33 years. He is an independent. And in the 24 hours since news came out about this effort, he said there's been an outpouring support from folks of all backgrounds looking to sign on. Dana?
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Again, talking about lacking accountability. What is Mayor Johnson doing? Is he taking the blame and saying, hey, you know, I'm making a mistake here. We shouldn't be taking care of illegals. I should be calling for Biden to deport these people. We should be calling to close the border. No, what he's doing is that he's blaming the extreme right wing. Okay, I guess he's calling these black folks extreme right wingers. Okay, I don't think they're extreme right wingers. I really don't. But this is what he's saying. Okay, instead of taking responsibility, Mayor Brandon Johnson on Wednesday blasted a nascent effort to establish a legal tool for voters to recall Chicago voters, calling it disingenuous and saying it is backed by extreme right wing political rivals. The mayor's comments came after a Lakeview resident earlier this month created a political committee with the Illinois State Board of Elections seeking to, quote, establish a recall mechanism for the Chicago office of mayor. State law does not currently provide a legal apparatus for voters across Illinois municipalities to recall mayors. Quote, voters get an opportunity every 2 years. 4 years, Johnson said, adding that the extreme right wing is not pleased with the diversity of Johnson's cabinet. Quote, it's some dude from the suburbs who is mad about the diversity and the formation which we have put forward, the mayor said before laying out several of his progressive initiatives his administration has passed in his nearly 1 year in office, including a paid leave policy and abolishing the city's sub-minimum wage for tip workers. Okay, so this guy is saying, look, it's racism, right? He doesn't like the fact that we have established diversity, right? We have diversity in my cabinet. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what that has to do with the fact that you are giving millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer funds to illegals. The fact that your city is out of control when it comes to crime. Okay. People don't like that you're trying to raise taxes. I'm not sure exactly what that has to do with the policies that people are really upset about. But hey, you know, if you want to say that diversity leads to bad policy, then be my guest, right? Make that argument, because that seems to be the argument that he's making here, because the recall is not happening because your cabinet is diverse. It's because of your policies. People don't like the way that you're running the city. So this is how the recall effort is going to go down if it actually really is successful. There are multiple steps. So I want people to understand that this story could really blow up here soon, quickly, if the people of Chicago band together and actually really execute on his recall, which I think, honestly, probably can happen, right? I'm pretty sure that it has a good chance of getting enough support behind this. Let's read here. A political action committee has been created to put a binding referendum on the November 5th ballot, asking Chicago voters whether they want the power to recall their mayor. My colleague Fran Spellman reports. Daniel Bolin, a former technology salesman who lives in Lakeview, is behind a recall effort. He will need at least 56,464 ballot signatures by August 5th to get a recall referendum on the November ballot. If it gets on the ballot and the question is approved in November, Chicagoans would be empowered to recall any present or future mayor, but Johnson still wouldn't be removed. Okay, so basically, what they would do is that they would have to essentially get enough signatures in order to get a recall referendum on the ballot. Basically, a question of, hey, do you guys want the power to recall the mayor of Chicago? If that passes in November, then they will have the power to remove him, in which they would have to go through another process to do so. Bolin would have to launch yet another petition drive, collecting at least 122,503 ballot signatures. If he clears that hurdle, Chicago voters would be empowered to recall Johnson in the next regularly scheduled election, March 2026. Yeah, so again, you know, this is basically 2 years down the road, okay? But hey, you know, I'm pretty sure every year under Brandon Johnson is, you know, a disaster for Chicago, okay? So, you know, 2026, you know, again, still a long ways out. Okay, but regardless, I think that they should have that power. I'm not sure why they didn't have that power in the first place. But again, situations like this is why you definitely need to allow citizens to be able to recall mayors, because if these mayors basically, run amok like what they're doing right now, the citizens should have an opportunity to get rid of the guy, right? And I think recalls keep politicians on their toes, and they should always be on their toes, right? They should always be aware of, the people and the fact that the people can remove you from your position if you're not doing your job correctly. So we got a long way to go in regards to recalling Brandon Johnson, but hey, they've gotten fed up enough in Chicago to actually start the process. Okay, they're saying, look, we're serious about getting rid of this guy, and we're going to move to get it done by March 2026. So we'll see. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.